in a Patriotic Bass Pro Shops paint scheme 20 years after the terrorist attacks on 9/11. Martin Truex Jr. wins at Richmond. Of course, today is 9/11. 20 years ago, 4 planes were hijacked and flown into the Twin Towers in New York and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. And of course, one other plane crashed after the passengers of the plane rushed the cockpit and crashed the plane into a field in Pennsylvania. One of the most tragic days in American history. Thousands of lives were lost. Tons of damage was done. The U.S. was shaken. It was just such a tragic day, such a tragic time for the United States, and it's tough. It's a tough thing. I mean, to look at, to see that happened, obviously, and even to talk about. But 20 years on the anniversary, and just obviously all of our thoughts, everyone's thoughts, are with the families of the victims of 9/11, those who may have worked at the area and survived, anyone impacted by the events of 9/11. Our thoughts are all with you. My thoughts are with you. So, yeah, obviously tragic events that was on the mind of everyone today, the 20th anniversary. And we had a NASCAR race today, and we're going to talk about that. We saw some patriotic paint schemes today in the field. Of course, the one that we saw that was highlighted today was the race winner, Martin Truex Jr. He's run patriotic paint schemes before with Bass Pro Shops at the Coca-Cola 600 on Memorial Day weekend, but we got to see it today again because the race was actually on September 11th, and of course, just remembering and honoring those who died on that day. Everyone, the service members, the firefighters, police officers, anyone that helped people on those days, those who laid down their life on that day. But let's talk about the race. As I said, paint scheme, Martin Truex Jr. got a little bit, I don't know if sidetrack's the right word, but we kind of got off with the paint schemes. Martin Truex Jr., we saw him run a patriotic paint schemes. We saw other teams. Busch was one of them, and there were multiple teams that ran patriotic paint schemes. We also saw decals with 9/11/01, we will never forget, on the cars. But yeah, that was on the forefront of everyone's mind tonight. But as for the race itself, Martin Truex Jr. punches his ticket into the second round of the playoffs with a win at Richmond, his third win in his career at Richmond. He swept Richmond in 2019, and, he looked really good there. That was his first short track win. Remember, Martin Truex Jr. has never won in a short track until a couple of years ago. He got his first short track win at Richmond in 2019, and he has been incredible at him ever since. He's won at Richmond multiple times since then. He has won at Martinsville multiple times since then. He has won at Phoenix, if we're considering that a short track. So Martin Truex Jr. has these short tracks figured out as of recently, and today it showed. Truex's strength this year, we talked about it in the playoff preview video. We talked about it in the championship case video. Truex excels at the 750 tracks. All of his wins this year have been at tracks that NASCAR has run the 750 horsepower package with the low downforce. Darlington, Martinsville, Phoenix, and now Richmond, all different tracks. And of course, Martin Truex Jr. adding playoff points to his name. We have talked about that with multiple drivers, that all these guys need to get as many playoff points as possible. There's no such thing as too many playoff points. And Truex, of course, he got some more tonight, 5 with the win. So, yep, good for him. And, of course, he was my championship pick. I picked him before the season. And, of course, I stuck with him in the playoffs. And this was one of the reasons that I stuck with him, because he's so good at these short tracks. The championship races at Phoenix, where Truex won earlier this year. But, of course, Truex has been so good at these short tracks, the tracks with the 750, whether it's a road course or it's a short track, Truex has been good. And tonight, he reminded us of that. He could have won last week if he didn't have a late speeding penalty, ended up with the top 5 at Darlington. But tonight, he showed us why he might, I'm not going to say he is, but might be considered the championship favorite. Obviously, Larson has been insane this year. He's won everywhere. He's been good at every track. But Truex is trying to say, hey, hold your horses. I'm pretty good too. especially at these short tracks, and Truex tonight made a statement. He was in the top 5 most of the night, top 10 most of the night, but it did not start off pretty. Truex started second because Kyle Larson dropped to the back of the field due to failing inspection. Truex jumped the start. Of course, on the initial start of the race, the second place driver is not allowed to reach the start-finish line first. Usually on a regular restart, if the leader spins the tires, the second place guy can go ahead because the leader spun the tires, but Denny Hamlin spun the tires on the initial start. Truex got to the start-finish line first and had to do a pass-through penalty early in this race in order to, as a penalty for jumping the start. I don't think that's the greatest rule, if you ask me. I think all restarts should be the same. If he just straight up jumped it, then yeah, penalize him. But if the 11 car spun the tires, then that's on the 11 car. What do you want Truex to do? Slam the brakes and, stack everyone up and cause a big crash, cause tons of damage on lap 1 of 400? I don't think that's a good solution. So I don't 100% agree with that call. I understand why it exists. You don't want the second place guy jumping the start, but I don't 100% agree with it. But Truex was able to rally back, get back on the lead lap, go up through the field, all the way up into the lead, into the top 5, obviously first, but into the lead later on due to some issues with his teammate Kyle Busch getting a speeding penalty, and Truex was able to drive away. But it wasn't easy. His teammate Denny Hamlin, who really dominated tonight, swept both the stages, led almost half of the race. He was 8 or 9 seconds behind on that last pit stop after Kyle Busch got his penalty. Truex came out about 9 seconds ahead of his teammate Denny Hamlin, and Denny Hamlin, he went crazy for those first few laps. He cut it all the way down to 5 seconds just in those first few laps of the run, but then it kind of stalled out. It went from 9 to 5, and it was just staying at that 5-second range in terms of the gap. And so everyone was like, okay, Truex has got this in the bag. Hamlin burned up all his stuff. But then the last 10 or so laps, Hamlin started to cut into that lead again. It was down to 4 seconds, down to 3 seconds. But then it stalled out again with about 3 to go. But Truex, I think he took those last couple of laps, just kind of took it easy, made sure he didn't push too hard, didn't run into lap cars, didn't, put it in the wall or anything. So he might have backed it off. But Hamlin got under 2 seconds, but could not get it done. Of course, Hamlin already advanced into the round of 12 thanks to a win at Darlington last week. But yes, a pretty uneventful night in terms of incidents, crashes, big crashes, other than one, which was Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch had a really good start to the night. He was up in the top 3, even was leading at one point, but he was running second, third, battling, and all of a sudden, Kurt just spins around and goes into the wall. His left rear tire it blew. And the most odd thing about it is that they had just pitted about 5 laps prior after the competition in caution. Kurt Busch had come down pit road, put 4 fresh tires on, and then just a couple laps later, he was a little wiggly, and everyone's like, well, maybe he's a little bit loose. Maybe he's getting the tires warmed up. Nope, Kurt completely spins around driver's side into the wall, which is a very dangerous crash, but thankfully Kurt was okay. And he hits the wall, and he finishes last. And that is a huge hit on his playoff chances. If he was able to get some points in that first stage, if he was able to run up in the top 5, top 10, he would have had a great gap in terms of the playoffs advancing to the next round. But this takes a huge hit on his playoff chances. And, yeah, I mean, the tire thing, it was so odd. They had just pitted. They were running up front, and it just blew. No one knows really what happened. I haven't heard anything, but it was just an odd crash, just an odd tire. Usually you run something over or you make contact, but they pointed it out on the NBC broadcast that the lettering on the tire had actually gone away before the restart. So, the tire was already starting to, deflate. It was starting to go away before the restart even happened. So that tire, it had some slight puncture or something that caused it to slowly go down and eventually blow, which ruined Kurt Busch's night. So that was the biggest playoff hit. Some guys had struggles tonight in terms of, speed. Some guys had issues on pit road, the biggest one being Michael McDowell, who was already in a huge deficit, over 20 points entering this race. Had a speeding penalty early on, and then in the last pit cycle had another speeding penalty. And then when he was serving his pit road pass-through for that speeding penalty, he sped again. That essentially ruined his night and put him in a must-win situation for Bristol. I'm never making a bold prediction again. Yeah, no. But yes, other guys who had issues tonight in the playoffs, it was nowhere as severe as last week where we saw so many guys having issues. Kyle Busch was leading this race late, had a speeding penalty, but because of all the cars that were a lap down, the giant gap that the Joe Gibbs cars had in that top 5, Kyle Busch was able to come back and actually still finish in the top 10 in 9th place. And of course, he was outside of the cutoff zone coming into this race after his early crash last week at Darlington. So a solid recovery. A win would have put him in, and he would have been thrilled with that. He wouldn't have had to stress about Bristol. So that could be crucial. If Kyle Busch gets eliminated next week, that speeding penalty could be costly. But yeah, he ends up recovering a little bit. But this could be a what could have been if Kyle Busch gets eliminated next week. Chase Elliott, he was up there contending for the lead early, led a good chunk of laps there, was battling Denny Hamlin for the lead. They seemed like the best 2 cars early on, but a horrific pit stop. Elliott thought he had slid through his box and backed up when he was actually still in his box. The jack dropped or something. It wasn't working. Something happened. It was a disastrous pit stop. Elliott ends up going a lap down after contending for the lead, and he has to use the free pass to get back around, but he rallies back for a top 5 finish. So, yes, now that we have talked about some of the issues for the playoff drivers, let's look at the results of this race. Martin Truex Jr. advances to the second round of the playoffs with his win. Had a good week at Darlington last week, so he had a good chunk of points, but of course, a win gets you through automatically. You don't have to worry about anything catastrophic happening next week at Bristol. And then, of course, you get extra playoff points. So that's a big deal for him. But overall, showed speed all through the night, even with their early problems jumping the start. But, I mean, just that's what they need to do. Get some more playoff points. Get yourself through to that second round. Truex did exactly what he needed to, other than the initial start. But they did what they were supposed to do today, which is win, and they good job. Good job, Martin Truex Jr. You're showing how good you are on the short tracks. Second place, Denny Hamlin, most dominant car of the night, led almost 200 laps tonight, swept the stages, was probably the best car all night. Slipped back, though, through the pit cycle, through other things. His teammates were able to catch up to him, pass him, pull away. He ends up with the second place finish. Of course, he's already advanced after his win at Darlington last week, but an amazing start for Hamlin in the playoffs. He has gained 8 playoff points so far in the first 2 races with a win and 3 stage wins. And of course, starting off the playoffs with a win and a second place finish is a great start. So they're hot right now. They are really hot. So hopefully they can keep that momentum up into the second round to try to, win early to get out of it. But once again, really good night for Hamlin. Third place, Christopher Bell, a 1-2-3-4 JGR, and just a really good night for Bell. He needed points. He was in that close kind of cutoff zone area coming into this race. He needed a good point state, and he got just that. A third place finish, tremendous finish for him. He's got a few wins at Richmond in the Xfinity Series and a top 3 here. That's got to feel good for him, but still not locked into the next round. It will be an interesting week for them next week at Bristol. Fourth place, Chase Elliott. As I said earlier in this video, Elliott was one of the best cars early in this race, led some laps, was fighting with Denny Hamlin for the lead early in this race, but an awful pit stop. I mean, straight up, it was an awful pit stop, both on the driver and, a technical failure by the jack or whatever. And it ended up costing them initially, but they were able to recover. They were able to get back up into 4th place, get themselves some good points, get that gap a little bit bigger. Remember, they only had a 4 or 5 point advantage coming into this race over the cutoff line. So getting a lot of stage points and getting a 4th place finish, that is going to help build that gap. But still, you got Bristol next week. 5th place, Joey Logano, a solid night for him. He was really good at this race in the spring, was good again today, was just outside of the top 5 and just in that 5th position most of the night. Ends up with a 5th place finish. That's exactly what he needed points-wise. We'll look at the point standings at the end of the results. 6th place, Kyle Larson, locks himself into the second round via points, assuming he passes post-race inspection. But yeah, started at the rear of the field due to inspection issues that he failed pre-race, and he comes back for a 6th place finish, got some stage points early on, and he locked himself in with the stage points. So Larson's through. Doesn't have to worry about next week. 7th place, Ross Chastain has been the best non-playoff driver this year in terms of the playoffs so far. Had a top 3 at Darlington last week, was competing for the win at some times. Led a couple laps tonight, was up in the top 5 for a good chunk of the race, ends up 7th. Really good finish to the season for him if he can continue this, and for Chip Ganassi Racing. But Trackhouse Racing's got to feel good about their driver choice for next year. Ross Chastain, he's absolutely killing it right now. So great night for Chastain. 8th place, Kevin Harvick. Good points day for him. Once again, we'll look at the point standings after this. But 9th place, Kyle Busch. Man, if he gets eliminated next week, he's going to look at that speeding penalty. He's going to be like, oh, man, that sucks. But, yeah, obviously that's costly, not only for this race, but could be for their season. They've had such a good season, a couple of wins this season. They've led a ton of laps. They've won some stages. They've been really good in the points. I think they finished 3rd or 4th in the regular season. So they've been killing it this year, and it'll be really unfortunate if they get shockingly eliminated in the first round. I don't think it'll happen, but, crazier things have happened at Bristol, so we never know. 10th place, Ryan Blaney. Blaney has struggled at Richmond in his career. He has had really bad races. Remember, he got eliminated from the first round last year, but, good performance at Richmond for him. He said he learned a lot in the spring. They had a decent run there, and today they get a top 10, so a good result for them. Especially after last week when they had some problems late in that race. 11th place, Austin Dillon, a non-playoff guy with a good solid day. 12th place, Alex Bowman, the spring winner. He's in a tight position for that last spot. I think it's a 1-point difference between him and Kurt Busch. I can't remember who has it, but he's going to need a good week next week. It's not looking good. Bowen's been good this year at times. He's got a few wins, but he has been inconsistent. He is going to need some help next week. 13th, Brad Keselowski. 14th, Eric Almirola. 15th, Tyler Reddick. 16th, Chase Briscoe. 17th, Daniel Suarez. 18th, Matt Benedetto. 19th, William Byron. Really disappointing night, and it's not looking good for him. Byron got eliminated in this round last year. But last year was a struggle for the 24 team. They weren't great. They had a win, but they weren't great. This year, the 24 team has been really good. They've been really consistent. They've got a lot of top 10s. They had a long top 10 streak early in the year. They fell off just a little bit the second half of the year, but they were still good. They were still running up front, getting top 10s, top 5s, even leading laps at times. They just haven't been on it so far, and it's going to cost them. It might cost them a chance at a championship. Awful week last week with early problems after running into their teammate, rallying back and then blowing a tire and ending their day. And today they were just bad. And it's could be costly. 20th, Ryan Newman. 21st, Eric Jones. 22nd, Cole Custer. 23rd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 24th, Chris Buescher. 25th, Ryan Preece. 26th, Anthony Alfredo. 27th, Justin Haley. 28th, Michael McDowell. He's in a must-win. 29th, Corey LaJoie. 30th, BJ McLeod. 31st, Garrett Smithley. 32nd, Bubba Wallace. He blew a tire late in this race. And, that just damaged his car, ruined his day. 33rd, Joey Gase. 34th, J.J. Yaley. 35th, Quinn Houff. 36th, Josh Bilicki. And 37th, Kurt Busch, who blew a tire due to a kind of a just freaky, kind of weird tire issue. But, those are your results in the Richmond 400 fall race thingy. Let's look at the point standings. Here are the point standings for the Cup Series. One more race remains in the first round, and that is Bristol. Bristol can be hectic, chaotic, short track, the last great Coliseum. Speaking of Coliseums, mid-race, it was said that there were NASCAR officials at the LA Coliseum for the USC game tonight. And that's where the rumored Busch Clash is going to be in 2022. That's going to be a separate video once that's confirmed. But, yes, let's look at the standings. Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson have all advanced to the second round. Larson has advanced through points, and then Truex and Hamlin through their wins. Joey Logano has a 40-point gap. He should feel pretty safe. Blaney has a 28-point gap. Harvick has a 25-point gap. That's a pretty safe gap, but if something happens, it's very possible they get eliminated. Elliott Bell, Keselowski, 19, 17, 13. You better get some stage points. Or, if these other guys get stage points and you have problems, then you could be in some trouble. And then we get to the concerned area. Kyle Busch is only 8 above, Almirola is only 3 above, and Kurt Busch is +0. Those guys have got to be, they're going to lose sleep this week. That's the fact of the matter. Kyle Busch, 8 points, that can be changed in one stage. If he doesn't finish in the points and, Bowman, Kurt Busch, and Almirola finish 1, 2, 3 in the stage, Kyle Busch, he's suddenly out, Almirola is only 3 above. That's 3 positions. And then Kurt Busch and Bowman are tied. If Bowman finishes higher than Kurt Busch and neither of them get stage points, he's through. If Kurt Busch finishes better, he's through. So that's very stressful. Bowman -0, as I said. That's got to be stressful for him. Tyler Reddick, 5 below. That can be made up easily, but that is stressful. Byron is going to need some help. He's 18 below the cutoff line, and that's not comfortable. He needs a lot to happen. He's not in a must-win, but it might come down to it if they do not have the speed, if they do not run well in that race next week. And then we got Michael McDowell. That's a must-win. Unless all other guys crash on lap 1 and McDowell gets every stage point possible, yeah, that's a must-win. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting for sure. We could do a preview if you wanted to. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But thanks for watching this. I hope you enjoyed the race tonight. And once again, just such a sad day every year that this day rolls around for the United States, but especially for those who were directly impacted by the terrorist attacks on 9/11 in 2001. Just once again, my thoughts are with you for everyone affected by that. It's just such a tragic event. I'm sure just such a sad day for those affected. So, thinking about you. The U.S. is giving you a giant hug. We love you. We just love you. I don't know what else to say. It's just, you don't really know what to say in these situations. I mean, it's just a tough thing to talk about. But, every day this year rolls around, you got to talk about it. You got to, it comes up because it's such a big part of our history. And, so just obviously our thoughts are with you. Our love is with you to everyone affected by that. But, yes, there's an F1 race in the morning at Italy, Monza. Dude, McLaren had a freaking day in the sprint qualifying. Daniel Ricciardo went from 5th to 3rd in the first corner. Lando Norris was able to jump up ahead of Lewis Hamilton. There were other things that happened, like Pierre Gasly crashed. That was unfortunate. But Bottas has a grid penalty, so Daniel Ricciardo's on the front row. It's going to be an interesting race tomorrow. I'm going to be doing my normal recap, I guess newly normal because I've only been doing this for 3 or 4 races now, but we're going to be talking about the F1 race tomorrow morning, so look out for that. As for the championship cases videos, this is the time of year I'm kind of like, do I continue on with them because some of these guys are in tough situations? Should I wait to see if they get through to the second round? So I might do a poll early in the week to see what you guys think. Like, we haven't done Kurt Busch, Almirola, let's see, we haven't done Harvick. Harvick, if he advances, we'll do him. We haven't done Bell. If he advances, we'll do him. But I might just wait till after the round of 12 is determined to do the guys who did advance, just because, Michael McDowell championship case, that relies so much on that win. We could discuss the possibility, but yeah, we might just push that back a little bit. But thank you again for watching. F1 race tomorrow morning, Cup race today. I guess I have to rate it. First half was really fun. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin battle for the lead was fun. Other battles throughout the field, but the second half was just kind of meh. I mean, nothing really happened. There were some penalties that kind of made it exciting. Elliott having his issues and trying to get unlapped, so that was kind of exciting, but second half just kind of nothing happened. That's Richmond, though. Like, Richmond is nowhere near the excitement level as a Bristol or a Martinsville in terms of short track, but it's still a short track. It has its moments, but 7.5 out of 10. This video has been going on long enough. Have a great rest of your night. I'll see you in the morning for Formula 1.